Welcome to the show, Milanista on fire. Nico Husky, Shane Lab, make the take you higher. They break it down, tactical, play so tight. Living for Milan, they're ready to fight. Red and black, bleeding through their veins. Milanistas 360 driving you insane. Hating on Ripper, don't get it twisted. You mess with Hollow, you're gonna get listed. Welcome to the 360, where the Milan pride. If you love the Rossoneri, come along for the ride. We're here to talk truth, no lies, no games. The Redbird management better learn our names. Nathan got the heart, Husney's got the grit. Shane and Lab spitting fire, never gonna quit. Nico's on the mic, always keeping it real. Breaking down defenses like a killer on the field. From San Siro nights to glory in our past. They've seen Milan forever, we stand fast. But Redbird, man, you ruined our vibe. Fire Maldini, you crossed that line. Welcome to the 360, where the Milan pride. If you love the Rossoneri, come along for the ride. We're here to talk truth, no lies, no games. The Redbird management better learn our names. Better learn our names. Nathan got the heart, Husney's got the grit. Shane and Lab spitting fire, never gonna quit. Nico's on the mic, always keeping it real. Breaking down defenses like a killer on the field. From San Siro nights to glory in our past. They see Milan's forever, we stand fast. But Redbird, man, you ruined our vibe. Fired Maldini, you crossed that line. Welcome to the 360, where the Milan pride. If you love the Rossoneri, come along for the ride. We're here to talk truth, no lies, no games. The Redbird management better learn our names. Better learn our names. You try to take the soul from this team, but we're Milan till we die, that's the theme. So the Redbird and all of your fake claims, Milanista 360 will burn down your flames. Milan forever, that's how it's gonna be. With Nico, Husky, Shane, Lab, and Nathan, you'll see. We hate Redbird, but for Milan we stand tall. Milanista 360 forever, Rossoneri, that's all. We'll let 'em learn our names. That's all. Milan forever, that's how it's gonna be. With Nico, Husney, Shane, Lab, and Nathan, you'll see. We hate Redbird, but for Milan we stand tall. Milanistas 360 forever, Rossoneri, that's all.
There we go.
All right, John,
How do you get rid of that graphic, mate?
let's go. I know, man. Small studio issues. All right. So while I get rid of that,
You
how's
look like Ibra.
everybody? Oh no. Welcome everyone. How's it going? Another awesome, rainy, awful, disgusting Sunday, unfortunately, in Malaga, Spain. Something commonly shared with other Mediterranean countries, I'm hearing this week, but we're going to cover that in a bit. Senor Lab Gorilla, ¿cómo estás?
I'm all right, man. I'm all right. I understood your Spanish. It's very good, mate. It's very good. You're lucky I'm married to a Spanish-speaking woman. Otherwise, I would have known what you were saying, mate. It's so. So yeah, no, it's been a good week. Really busy work again, but things are starting to lighten up finally. Run up to Christmas now, isn't it? Crazy thinking about that. But no, again, full of news. Things happen to our club. We are a news-making club.
Yeah.
Hi, Kim. See you
Yeah.
live, mate.
Kim, so good to see you, man. How you
Welcome,
been?
sir.
Welcome. What time is it in Australia now, Kim? in the future time. I always get confused.
Yeah,
Anyway,
I'm gonna guess. I'm gonna guess, right? I'm gonna guess it's 6 p.m. for them. That's what I'm gonna guess. 5 or
yeah.
6 p.m. I reckon. Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
Cool.
Anyway, all right. Morning, let's talk Milan. So good to see you, man. So,
Yeah, lovely.
all right, Mr. Lab Gorilla, what you want to start with?
Yeah. Yeah, so let's start with talking about the match that didn't happen yesterday, eh?
Hmm. All right.
So not trying to put a workload on you, try and do the screen share if you
There we
can.
go.
You
All right.
man, you legend. You absolute legend. By the way, I like that tune. It's the first time I heard it.
Yeah.
It's a
Shout out.
funny thing.
Shout out. So we have a not only is he an amazing host, and shout out to Mr. Nico, defensive dynamo. Um, he's also amazing at creating these, tracks. So there's a whole section on the YouTube channel full of like, especially Nico's amazing tracks. So Nico created that. So shout out to Nico though as well, because the content he's been producing lately has been fire. He's not taking any prisoners. I'm seeing by looking at some of the comments for the, but
Yeah,
it is what it is. So
right.
shout out, man. Very valued
Yeah,
guy.
shout out to Nico.
We're just
Awesome,
gonna
man.
we're just with a quick one. We're gonna try next week, if possible, to get everyone. So hopefully, if Nico can make it, if Nathan and Hosni can make it, they're very much core members of our channel, and we'd like to have them on. So hopefully next week, if it works out, let's go for it.
Yeah. If you think about it, between all of us, we've got like Asia, North America, South America, Central America. You've
I
got
know.
Europe. It's quite a
It's,
few time zones. So trying to find a time zone that everyone suits is kind of difficult. But we'll try. We'll try, guys.
and
We will eventually have the big one with everyone on it. It'll be
and
quite awesome.
Kim in Australia in the future time. The future time.
Kim, who is clearly 11 hours ahead from me.
11 I see.
Um, yeah,
8 p.m.
yeah,
or 8 p.m.
8
Spanish
p.m.
time. Yeah, okay. Amazing.
All right. Cool. So, why don't we begin at the beginning, which is the game that didn't play yesterday? So let's just give you some actual facts. There's been a lot of rumors. We're going to talk about those rumors, Shane, because it's always interesting to talk about rumors. But what happened is there's a in our stories over the last few weeks, we could see the word sindaco, sindaco this, sindaco that, sindaco this. Now, I left Italy quite young. The word sindaco was not that familiar to me. It's mayor. So every time you hear the word sindaco, it's another mayor that's come out of the woodwork to make a decision. All right. So we've got Bologna's mayor, Matteo Lepore, decided to close the Renato Dallara Stadium due to the weather and the challenging situation that affected the city over the past days. So he says his statement is that the heavy rains of these days and the weather forecast for the next few ones do not allow us to predict a return to normality in the next few hours. Also, considering that they had a weather alert. So that's the statement that he's come out with. And of course, there was a huge uproar by all the Milanisti saying it's a complete scandal. And I'll explain why it's seen as a bit of a scandal. But the statement is this, and the league Serie A agreed with him and said, yeah, due to the flooding in the area and the infrastructure, this cannot go ahead. So let's just have a quick look at what the flooding in the area, the condition of the flooding is. So this is an image taken from Bologna. We're talking about really significant rain. So I've got a friend who is in a different region of Italy in Tuscany, and she's telling me that basically she needs a Noah's Ark to get around. It's just incredible the amount of rain that's coming down in that region. Um, so yeah, it is pretty serious. Now, Carmelo, to your point, I will get to it. Don't worry. So the question, which I think is completely fair, Shade, why was the match postponed and not played at a neutral venue? Scaroni came out and said openly, look, we're looking at alternatives. Forlani was doing his job and trying to book alternative venues, Como and other stadia. But the decision was made, and this is the CEO of Bologna Football Club, came out and said it's because the Milan game, Bologna Milan game, is one of their biggest marquee football games. and they're really worried about losing the revenues because they were going to be using the revenues as a fundraiser to help those affected by the floods. That is a reason, Shane, I know, that is a reason given and a reason accepted. Now, let's just think about this a little bit carefully. The match is suspended. The problem is now in the region. The destruction is now in the region. The match will probably not be replayed until February. So what? You're going to wait 5-6 months to actually raise those funds and give them to those people? Potentially be too late, right? So, but that's what it is. That's the official statement. Now, what I want to do is let's talk about the conspiracy theories that have come out regarding the situation. And the first one is this: rumors are that Lotito, the owner and president of Lazio, who's also a good friend of De Laurentiis, the owner of Napoli, campaigned for the match to be postponed. And we'll talk about in a second, obviously, we know this as Milanisti, why this is beneficial for Napoli. And then the other thing is going to Carmelo's point. Bologna did not shut down every single event. It actually had several events take place. One of them is in the Unipol Arena. There's a big boxing night, and this went ahead. And it went ahead, from what I understand, behind closed doors. Now, me being curious, I said, how far is the Unipol Arena? So I plotted a map between, I asked, AI to help me distance between the Delara Stadium and the Unipol Arena. They're only 5 miles apart. Oh, actually, it's in the very close region. Carmelo wants to put his tinfoil hat on. It's good. And then there's this, which is the Auto and Moto d'Europa, the and Moto de Poca of Bologna. So this is one of the biggest motor shows in Europe, perhaps the biggest motor show in Europe. And to give it clear, it's held between the 24th and the 27th of October. This went ahead, and I checked the number of visitors that they've had over the past few years. Doors were open. On average, throughout the duration of these 4 days, they have 130,000 people walk through those doors to look at those vehicles, whether it's motorbikes or cars. So these events went ahead. Now, maybe, and I am trying to play devil's advocate here, Shane, maybe the mayor said, we need to have emergency services working on certain things, and they're already covering this big motor show because it's a much bigger earner. We're going to have the boxing thing go ahead behind closed doors, and we have to cull one. And so the decision is the Milan because they wanted the revenues from it. The statement is what it is. I'm not going to argue against it. Problem is, the league approved it and said it was fine to postpone the match. Bologna saying, I think it's true. Playing against Milan is a marquee game for them. They'll make probably one of their biggest revenues of the year, I guess. They've got a history of doing this. They postponed, I believe, a game against. Trying to think. Did they postpone a game against Inter in the past? I can't quite remember that. But anyway, that's what it is, Shane. And that's the story on this side. So what do you think after seeing all of this? What's your opinion on it?
I don't want to go down the tinfoil hat thing for now and say it's a conspiracy. However, knowing the club that we have and the lack of leadership that we have on the pitch and probably, everywhere else, right? The gap at the top of the table, I know we're going to cover this in a bit, but the gap at the top of the table, even though we're a game behind, I don't think that a lot of our players have the balls to kind of see that and go, we can make this up. I think it'll be we're an extra 3 points behind. And I think, because we don't seem to have a squad that, for the most part, that is strong mentally. I don't think it's going to go down so well. So I think if I look at the outcome of it, I don't think it's going to suit us. That being said, though, there's also something in the back of my mind, which is this could be looked at in two ways, right? It could be a situation where this could play in our favor, right? Assuming that we replay Bologna maybe February or March, right?
Yeah.
Assuming that we're out of the UCL, and unfortunately, not that I want to see this team lose. Believe me, I do not through any bias or agenda against current ownership. I don't think we have a high quality enough squad to be in the Champions League at that time. So, and looking at our history in the Coppa Italia, especially in recent seasons, we might be out of that then too. So if we're just playing in the one competition, I think, Bologna, keep in mind that the core of their squad has been sold. I think it
Yes.
should, they don't really have a lot of quality to call upon. And them going into like February, March, I think we could be picking apart a carcass.
Okay. So can
So,
I counteract that with something, Shane? Can I
mhm,
counteract with something?
mhm.
At the moment, Bologna are very busy losing games in the Champions League and getting pounded left, right, and center, right? So, if anything, they're on a downer at the moment. So, in my opinion, it would be a good time to play them and collect the 3 points and move on, right? Giving the match until February potentially means they'll be out of the Champions League equally. They'll definitely be out. I mean, right now they're near the bottom of the table like we are, but below us. They've only got a point. Now, if that's the case, then they'll be out of that competition and they will have had January to have potentially strengthened. I'm just saying, I'm just playing devil's advocate here, Shane. There's
There's,
two
there's,
sides to everything, right?
so there was a comment by Andan. Hi Andan as well, man. It's good to see you there. So there was a poll that I'd released, right? But he said it's a sign of corruption in the league, and anybody that says Forza Serie A is stupid. Serie A doesn't give an F about Milan. Yeah, I think Serie A doesn't give a fuck about TV rights, let alone the teams that play in the league sometimes. So yeah, it's kind of very
Yeah.
much that vibe.
So let's just have this discussion, right? The knock-on effects. Carmelo, I'll get exactly to your point. You're like ahead of me, mate. So problem one, the Napoli game. We have two players on red cards that were going to be finishing their suspensions by serving them against Bologna, a team that was going to be, as I said, in my opinion, there to be picked apart by us, and we should have gotten the 3 points from the game. Theo Hernandez, really important. He's a starter left back, and Tijani Reinders, who is putting in uh, performances are just getting better and better, and he's quite dynamic in that midfield. So we lose these two players because the rules are the suspension has to be served in the next game. Obviously, the Bologna game is removed. The next game after that is Napoli. So we are two first starter players down for that game. Problem two, and this is Carmelo to your point.
Hold on,
The truth is this.
hold
Yeah,
on. So, all right, now it
tell
makes a
me.
bit more sense why De Laurentiis was so eager to get the
Yes, Shane.
lift.
I mean, yes, Shane. That's why I mentioned it.
Hmm.
It's why I mentioned it, my friend, because it is tinfoil hat time. It really is. Um, but the problem too is this: January the 3rd, 2025 is actually when we play the semi-final of the Super Cup, which, as you know, is now being exported. It's got semi-final and a final, which is stupid. And it's all about money again, Shane. All about money again. But that means because of those 2 days, January the 3rd and January the 6th, our fixture against Como also has to be postponed, which actually means by the time we get to February, Milan will have an asterisk next to its name and they will be 2 games down on the rest of the league, not one. Do you get me? So your point earlier about the fact that you don't think we've got the players to be able to see that, oh God, we're falling behind, we'll make it up. How about 2 games behind? See what I mean? It's kind of severe because the gap starts to really look numerically daunting. Okay. So that's the second problem. Right. The topic I wanted to discuss with you. I think this could kick off. Shane, something's happened this week, which I think is enlightening. Okay, so let's look at our club. Let's just look around our club, and I'm going to mention names in a minute. I've mentioned this slide to lose or not to lose. Um, Actually, that's quite funny because Isn't that the club that Redbird owned?
There
That's
you go.
actually brilliant. Oh my god, I did a funny without meaning to do it.
Absolutely. Very good.
Um, so our club at the moment, Redbird Capital around it, and we know the mess they've done. They brought in Fonseca, a weak um, coach. We then have a management team that is bottom right corner, the San Siro situation, and we've got a Redbird reporting man. Ibrahimovic is calling himself Fonzie, whilst the entire Bologna issue is what is happening. There has been this week something in one of the other channels, Rossoneri TV, where their main host, Roy, has come out and said, "Look, I'm going to admit it, guys. I want Milan to lose. I want Milan to lose because it will accelerate the potential removal of the people around the club." Now, when I heard this, my first reaction was, of course, a bit of shock. But then I also thought, you know what? I have been monitoring several channels lately. And even in Italy, there's a guy called Enrico Silvestrin. I think he's got something like 60 or 70,000 subscribers, Shane. And basically, every time Milan wins, it's luck. Every time we lose, it's down to management. I think it's something to be said about consistency, and there's something to be said about honesty. And I think if I don't call you a non-fan if you wish the club to lose, okay? I'll say it's incredible because in the 40 years of supporting this club personally, I have never seen this. Of course, we were, in my early years before the YouTube era. Okay. So we were not hearing these opinions of social media era. But I think it's very good to have people being honest and saying, look, there's a reason why I'm being negative every single time we win. There's a reason why I'm always looking for excuses every time we win. Or there's a reason why when we lose, I really stick my boot in. It's because, yes, MCIG says it, accelerationism, trying to accelerate something from happening. Um, what's my opinion on that? My opinion on that, you know what? Respect to you for finally saying what I thought you were feeling, Just I respect that. And I don't call you a fake fan at all, by the way. I think it just means that, you're just really, really unhappy. And we've been put in such a situation that part of the fan base feels that way. I have no hate towards people that say that. In fact, I wish more people would come out because I think there are more people out there would come out and say that. I am not on that side. I just can't. I just can't find myself. I don't think I've ever found myself wishing Milan to lose, to be honest. But I can understand it. What did you think about this, Shane, and the revelations this week?
So, um, I can understand the sentiment, right? I want to use a working example built into this. It kind of speaks to the how fickle. I guess Milan fans, just like any other fan base, we have we can be fickle sometimes. Um, I want to use Chukwueze as a working example. So Chukwueze has starred against Udinese, right, and FC Bruges, right. He's came on. He's played really well. Um, this has kind of led people to kind of saying, "Oh my God, we now have a functional right wing and we can play him in every game." Um, but guys, like Chukwueze against Udinese, or no offense to FC Bruges, but I mean they're from the Belgian league, right? Um, these aren't quality teams, right? So I think
Yeah,
we really need to temper our expectation around Chukwueze. I'm not saying he's a bad player. I'm just saying I don't think he is of the quality that we should be looking for if we want to make a good Champions League run. And so therefore, because because we're not going to make that. I just don't believe we're going to make a deep Champions League run. To be honest, I don't think overall. I don't think we have the qualities in the squad. I think the Real Madrid game will tell us a lot.
Yes.
And I don't think it's going to tell us good things, right? So when I extrapolate the Chukwueze situation into the fickle fan base, right, I can understand where Roy from Rossoneri TV is coming from. Um, do I want to see the team functionally lose? No. However, God forbid, but when someone has cancer, right, the doctor doesn't tell them to go out for a run and you'll be fine. They have to go undergo, in some lot of cases, like severe chemotherapy, and it's very damaging and it's awful for them. But God willing, they come out of it better in the end. So I, as bad as it is to say, okay, I think I'm kind of on board with it because we know what we have with Redbird. It's not going to be a good situation. We know, Redbird were selling this thing of, okay, well, we're going to get this new stadium. Guys, we're going to get the new stadium that Inter are going to get. The
Mhm.
only, the only difference is that we'll have positive balance sheets, right? Inters are going to be wrecked, right? But feasibly, Inter squad, forget the result early in the season. Inter squad pound for pound is better than ours is, right?
Yes.
They can call upon established talent, right? You know, um, they're going to get this. They're going to get the same reward that we're going to get, but we're getting fed bullshit, which is, look, we're financially sustainable, we're healthy, we're all these kind of things. But like when you look at what have we gained because of that, really? So when I look at that, I'm kind of saying, yeah, we need someone new. We need someone who understands the culture of the club, who understands football, who understands the Italian side of the game as well. I mean, you don't know how heartbreaking it is. Like I see a Milan team, right, and it's like they're playing the Champions League. I see the team that fucking Maldini played for, Costacurta played for, fucking Rossi played for, Massara played for. I see that team, right, and there's not a fucking Italian on the pitch. So I
Yeah.
mean, fuck this ownership, right? And I would rather go through, and sorry, for anyone that's been affected or if they've had their family members affected by cancer, I'm not making light of that. But I'm saying I'd rather go through the chemo now, right? Lose, bomb out of everything, if the future is brighter and we get an ownership who gives a fuck about the club. That's it.
Well, interesting. So your analogy on cancer is actually pretty much identical to what Enrico Silvestrin has been saying on his channel as well, saying, you know, this ownership is a cancer on the club. We need to remove them. How can we get that? Now, he's not mentioned losses, but it's just through his messaging of fortune when we win, but then whenever we lose, it's management. So I kind of think consistency is fair. I completely appreciate your point, and let's just go through the chat here just a minute. So Kim says, but John, you like to make bets against Milan? True, mate. But it's not that I want those bets to win. Remember, Kim, never ever bet with money that you need. Yeah. Those are
On
free
Milan,
bets that I generate.
never bet on
Exactly.
Milan.
I love that. Never ever bet on Milan with money that you need because invariably you will lose it, my friend. Um, and then MCIG says if the season is already over, then accelerationism makes sense. Right now, it's too soon. Yeah, we're still in some competitions, guys. I just want to, and we'll talk about this in a second. Actually, so it's a good point. We'll talk about that in a second. And then,
Bologna are still in some competitions as well, though. Doesn't mean they're going to win anything. Do you know what I mean? And
yes, yes,
it
yes. And then there is the point from Carmelo, which is unfortunately, I don't think if Milan loses, Redbird will leave any sooner. Other factors come to play. Absolutely, they do. It's not just you step out your front door and you find someone that's got 1.2 billion spare change to be able to take over the club, right? So there's lots of factors that need to come in. Um, yes, he says if you think your American ownership is bad, look at Chelsea. It might just cheer you up. I don't look at the Premiership very much. I generally don't. Every now and then, I will. Maybe if we're playing one of those teams, or if it's a big clash, I might watch it. Often because the bookmakers will make a very good odds on those matches. But that's it. Right. So thanks everyone. That was really, really important discussion. I think I genuinely think honesty at this point is great. But I want to make one point clear: none of you, nobody, no matter what your opinion is a fake fan. I consider you all very passionate fans, no matter where you stand on this. Genuinely. Okay, so let's go to that slide and move it to the next one. All right, so a little bit of an update on the stadium, and it's the latest update. I'm literally going to spend one slide on it, really. So what's now happening is been on the news that Milan and Inter are saying we're going to build on the San Siro site. We're going to try and get around the problem that it's San Siro's had part of it called uh, of cultural significance, which means that you can't really touch, you can't really destroy all of it and rebuild. And so they're having to have discussions about how do you maintain a little bit of a section of it, like one of the rings, I think, might have been called of cultural significance. Of course, these discussions in the last few days, which have indicated that Milan and Inter together are trying to buy the San Siro and the surrounding area for something like 200 million. Of course, we're pushing to get the price down even further, which is what Milan does. Is that the mayor, again, that word again, another syndico has come out of the ground, but this time the mayor for the San Donato area, Francesco Squeri, he's come out and said, I urgently need a conversation with the management from Milan, and I need to have serious conversations. Basically, what this is saying, I need to have a serious conversation with transparency. Okay. And he has said, and I've taken a quote from him, non è obbligatorio fare lo stadio San Donato. So it's you don't have to build in San Donato, right? It's not obligatory to do that. E chi decide sono le società. So it's like it's the clubs that's going to decide, right? It's their decision at the end of the day. Dato che le risorse sono loro, però a San Donato l'iter è avviato. A Milano devono ricominciare quasi da zero. So what he's saying is, in the San Donato area, at least the process has begun. In Milan, we would have to begin from scratch again. They would have to begin from scratch again. So what are we saying there? 2024, nothing has happened, guys. Just conversations. And we go, I can point to previous episodes and we had a really long discussion about the stadium, San Donato, all this money being spent. Ultimately, I think they bought 300 or is it 300,000 square meters of
I think
land
so.
for 40 million.
40 million
Yeah.
has been spent, man. But you see, the
Yeah.
thing is I don't know why everyone is so upset about this, because all it takes is one more collaboration with the fucking New York Yankees or Dyson or I don't know who else, Democratic Republic of Congo guys, and we're there. You know, who gives a fuck
Yeah.
about sporting success, really, John?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Yeah. But, people point the finger at Scaroni. And by the way, Scaroni was a major figure in the Bologna thing. He was the one going to the press and saying, this will be resolved. And then he said, I'm actually in shock. And a lot of people pointed the finger to him and said, you're such a weakling. You have no weight whatsoever politically in Italy. You were not able to push your point across. I don't know how I feel about Scaroni at all. I just seems to he's a club president. He seems to be a figure. That's it. It doesn't seem to do very much.
I think anyone associated with Cardinale at this point, let's be honest, anyone associated with Cardinale, they're automatically. I think even just to any diehard fan of this club, right? I think anyone
Yeah,
associated to that fucking asshole, is
yeah,
just tarnished, really, no matter what they do or
yeah,
don't do. And I mean, you
yeah,
see that with Ibra, right? Ibra, for whatever he was or whatever he is, if times were less turbulent, I think he would have an easier ride. The fact that he's
yes.
getting the shit he's getting is because it's basically because he's tied to
I,
capital.
I mean, he's not helping himself by trolling all the time. But fair enough. Fair enough. The association with being, the fact that he's not actually a Milan employee, he's a Redbird employee, that doesn't make him be endeared by anyone, but his behavior has been abhorrent. I love that word. So next Tuesday, we have, by the way, Tuesday, what the hell? Tuesday night, this is my time, UK time, 7:45, is Milan v Napoli. And here is where we see, Shane, the starting effect of not playing against Bologna, the mathematical starting effect. Napoli won last night. They've moved to 22 points. So now the gap between us is 8. Yeah. We have dropped. Atalanta had an absolutely incredible game. If anyone hasn't watched the highlights, please watch them. CDK scored an absolute banger of a goal. It was beautiful. I think they won 6-1. And the story in the Gazzetta, I think it was Verona they were playing against, and the story in the Gazzetta was this football game or tennis? Because that's a scoreline of a tennis game, right? But you see now Atalanta's jumped up and so on. So if you think about this is the influence of just one game being lost. And then we're going to lose a second game against Como in terms of our scheduling. So we'll be 2 games behind. So I think, as you said, the mental pressure of being so many points behind and knowing that you've got those games to play still, it takes a certain type of player, a certain type of manager to be able to make those points, right? So the last thing I wanted to talk about was the Champions League because actually on Milanista 360 we haven't discussed it. Nico's done I think pre-games, post-games on that. But let's just have this discussion, you and I, Shane. So this is the table that we put up a few weeks ago when we were talking about the scheduling and so on. And I've got in here obviously the results. Liverpool's is 0 points, Leverkusen 0 points. Club Bruges, we won. They went down to 10 men. They scored against us, but thankfully we won that game. The game coming up on the 5th of November is against Real Madrid. After that, however, we've got Bratislava, we've got Crvena Zvezda, Girona, and Dinamo. Okay, Dinamo Zagreb. So I think Crvena Zvezda are also called Red Star, if I'm not wrong on that. So just want you to keep an eye on this, Shane, right? So we've got 3 points so far. And you think, is 3 points okay for this part of we're almost halfway. Where do we actually want to get to? So I looked at the current table in the Champions League, and the current table has 3 Premiership teams in the top 8, which are the automatic qualifiers. Aston Villa, Liverpool, Man City. So we can call this thing whatever you like, Shane, but I've always called this new format is a pseudo Super League. And unsurprisingly, the de facto European Super League, the richest league in Europe, has most of its team in the top 8. And if you look further down, Arsenal are just outside of it themselves. So they could potentially have, all of the teams inside the top 8. Inter, I should say, from Serie A, have made that top 8 at the moment. And you can see big teams like Real Madrid, Barcelona are sniffing around it. I think by the end we will get close. Carmelo, see you later, mate. I hope you enjoy the rest of the show later. Thank you very much for joining. So let's look further down the table. And we're looking at the bottom part of the table, teams 25 through to 36. So why have I highlighted this particular? Because from 25 to 36 are the teams that get knocked out. They go. And I just want to point out, Bologna's there. Big teams that are in there are also Atletico. Yeah. So 3 points. We've got 3 points. Club Brugge is right next to us in 26th place. But 2 of our opponents that are going to be coming up are right at the bottom of this league on 0 points. Right. So we've got 3 points. 2 of the weakest opponents are actually on this part of the league. Analysts in the UK have looked into this, and the estimation is that total point tally of 16 points or more will make you reach top 8. But 9 points or above will make top 24. If that is the case, then just 2 more wins out of our remaining fixtures should get us through to the top 24, Shane. So if you keep that in mind, then actually it's, some people are like, oh my God, we're going to get knocked out. I really doubt we will get knocked out. I think what's going to happen is we're going to go into that playoff zone where then it's up to, imagine you've got Real Madrid outside the top 8 at the moment. Imagine you had a two-legged playoff against Real Madrid. Then it would be the end. So it's in our interest not only to get to those 9 points, but as many points as possible to be as close as possible to that, top section, so we don't go up against one of those very, very big teams. We don't want a Borussia Dortmund over 2 legs. We don't want a Barcelona over 2 legs. We really don't want them if we want to go through to the next phase. But I just wanted to point out 9 points, you'll get through. I think it's very, very likely that Milan make it through. What do you think on that, Shane?
I think we'll make it through. I think I had raised this as a thing when we first started talking about the rules changes, or sorry, the format changes in the Champions League. I had said that I think for Redbirds, their optimum requirement, right, is that we can play as many games in the UCL because of the money spinner that it is, charging people couple of €100 for a ticket for each game. So I think for me, the top 24 was always the aim. I think we built our squad like that. I think consistently that's where we'll build our squad to just be enough. To
Agreed.
challenge though, no. MCIG, great points. EPL representing Super League is right. Money talks. There's no stopping that for better or for worse. No, there's not. No. I think the issue I have though, it's not as much the Super League or the EPL or anything like that. I think so. If we look at the amount of games, for me, the UCL seems to have lost something. I think it's overall in quality. I think it's not there because the players are too
Yeah.
fatigued.
Yeah.
There's
I agree.
no urgency anymore. It's kind of just became like a football league outside of the domestic league,
Mm.
I mean that obviously, there's still going to be, in the next round is going to be the, like playoffs and all that stuff, and that's fine. I'm just not feeling the new format change. And where we're going to end up, I think, we want to make it to the top 24. We'll probably, we'll scrape in. We'll get destroyed by, as you said, Barcelona, Real Madrid, and then we'll wonder how we did so bad. And then we'll kind of remember it's because we're not really built to be playing at a top level. We're built to be just enough. And that's the problem.
Yeah, I mean, so I do agree with that, Shane. I think it all comes down to, I think we will get 9 points. Looking at the teams we're up against, we will get to the 9 points. But the issue is, how many more than that can we get to enable us not to face those super tough opponents, so that we might have a chance to make it through to the actual truly knockout phases? I don't know, because then when you go to the knockout phases, then you're also ranked. And so at that point, we'll be like, okay, we're in trouble here. Okay. So I expect, this is what I expect. I expect Milan to come up against a decent opponent in those matches 9 and 10, the double legged playoff. I expect Milan to go through. I think that is enough for Redbird as an accomplishment for the year. And then I expect us in the knockout rounds to lose. That's basically what I think will happen, because I think it is good enough for what we've put together as a project. I think Scaroni accidentally let that out in one of his comments. I don't think winning, I think top 4 is good enough, that kind of stuff. But I think the major point on the Champions League, your point is interesting, which is you don't feel that same urgency that you used to feel from the group stages. I agree with you, Shane. I think going forward, what teams will do is they'll start to understand that if 16 points turns out to be the magic line, like they say in any league, get to 36 points, let's say, whatsoever, and you'll avoid relegation. It's kind of like that. I think in years to come, people will be basically looking at and saying, well, actually, games if we can get to this point by game 4, for example, game 5, then we can literally just field youth squads for the rest, our B squads, so that there's no exhaustion whatsoever, and we'll start throwing games. There's been a lot of strange results in the Champions League, or alternatively, in league games for particular teams in and around Champions League fixtures. Um, and I think it's all down to it. Yeah, exhaustion. There's so many big clashes happening now so frequently that teams can't keep up. At the moment, teams can't keep up. And I
See that
think,
you
yeah,
know you know what's so based on what we've talked about earlier, right? So this game getting suspended against Bologna,
yes,
it shows how full the calendar is that they can't
yes,
even fit in a game realistically within 3 months.
yeah. Shane, yesterday, I genuinely heard a rumor that they were considering Christmas Day.
Yeah,
That's
like and
just
you know,
what?
I mean, I know the players, right? I know the players, they're obviously on phenomenal wages. I know all this, right? But the thing is at the end of the day, they're still people too. You can't, and at some point, if you're getting, ridden like a fucking dead horse, at a certain
Mm,
point, you're going to stop caring, right?
yeah.
So,
I mean, for me, I would do away with a lot of the internationals. It's unbelievable. I mean, we're going to be going mid-November on another international break. It's the third one.
this is too much. I honestly, like
It's
in
too
this,
much football.
yeah, this too much. Like if the beauty of something is in its scarcity, right?
Mm,
That's what makes it beautiful. But the thing is like it's just this. You're kind of getting fatigued, right, with the amount of football because it's like you turn around and it's like, oh fuck, it's an international break, and then the internationals happen, and then you're watching them. But the thing is like internationals used to be beautiful because they didn't happen that often, and
yeah.
and it's a whole new level, right? But we're just, I don't know. It's kind of there's such a thing as too much of a good thing, right? And what's happening now is because we're getting too much of a good thing, it's actually getting tiring fucking watching it.
Yeah. Yeah. So for me, I have not been able to see. I saw that first Champions League game
Mhm.
against Liverpool. You obviously saw it live. But the games after that, they've all gone to channels that you have to pay for. So they've been moved off to pay-per-view. And
Yeah.
I'm not going to. I'm just not going to do it because what I know is the players can't perform to the best of their abilities a lot of the time. They're just not anymore.
Dude, I mean, this is a scary thing, right? When you have a fucking like historical, and I'm not a Real Madrid fan. I just want to say this. Um, but you have to big up class and history when it's there. And if Real Madrid are struggling with this,
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
and we're bringing on fucking RLC in a Champions League game as a substitute, the levels, the levels of failure, like, like,
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, Camarda came on. It was very nice to see the kid play.
amazing.
But can I just have a actually, Shane, you can, if you want, you can take this off and just put the
Hmm.
two of us on the screen. That was the final slide. So,
Hmm.
um, Camarda came on, and we had. It's quite funny. So many people said, "Oh, look, he's just 16. Allow the goal." No, an offside is an offside. It doesn't matter how old you are. It's kind of hilarious to hear that. I love the kid. I love his passion. I love the fact that he has apparently he has a tattoo with the bloody Curva Sud on it, like their emblem on it, on his thigh. Great. But ultimately, that's offside. It's quite clearly offside by the rules. So please put this kid on more. We've got teams that we're going to be going up against. And to MCIG's point, clubs with big rosters are the ones that are going to be able to cope. It's not a surprise that Premiership teams are the ones sitting there being able to do it. Like, you remember the game against Liverpool, Shane? We brought on subs, you saw their subs, and you thought, well, it's just night and day. That's the level's night and day. For us, the key is for those subs not to be RLC, the key is for that sub to be someone like Liberali, someone who's actually integrated in the squad that might be able to do something different.
You might as well
Oh,
at this point, man, because I seen a bit of the Aston Villa game yesterday. So one of my friends was
yes,
watching it here, right? And
yes,
like the one thing you'd noticed is, I mean, when a club has a project and is executing it so well, every player knows what to do on the pitch. They know their role, right? And they know how to fulfill the greater good, which is, obviously win the fucking game, right? I know. I don't think they won yesterday. I think it was a draw, but still, that's a club with a vision, and they're executing it flawlessly, right? So
yeah,
even outside of the big rosters, I still think that there is a time in this day and age where if you do the basics right, you know, even if the people that you get on your roster are maybe not 100%. I think if you do it correctly, I still think that you can go a long way. Big rosters or not, but fuck, man, I just it it's kind of getting to the situation now where it's like, is as the seasons go on under Redbird, we we seem to be getting more and more stock average players that don't, they're never going to raise the level of the team, let alone be sufficient to play in the Champions League. So as I'm seeing that, and they're kind of they're side pushing in all these very average
yeah,
players.
yeah.
Fuck, it doesn't look good.
Yeah,
Doesn't.
but that's the big point, Shane, is that the more you put up leagues that require big rosters, the more you are actually biasing the entire system towards the biggest and biggest clubs. So if anything, what's actually happening is not that there's more revenues that are being shared
No.
with all the clubs. You're actually making those clubs stronger and stronger and stronger and richer.
Mm,
So, the Man City. I mean, think about Man City and where they are in the Champions League. Yesterday, they only beat Southampton 1-0. Southampton are an absolute car crash of a club.
mm,
Sorry to any Southampton fans. I know one. But, this is a club that was 2-0 up against Leicester and lost 3-2. It's just hilarious. So you think Man City only beat them 1-0. The exhaustion is a real thing. But if you can bring in people from the bench, people said, there's a tweet and it said, we're losing Theo Hernandez and TG Reindeer for the Napoli game now. Who would you bring on in their place? And I said, well, I would like Scaroni and Furlani to be on that pitch and have some appreciation as to what they've left us in. Because those
fair.
guys will have heart attacks and die probably if
Mm.
they try and play a match. But who's going to come in? Seriously, what, Terracciano? Is Terracciano going to play? Are you going to put RLC in place, which is the most likely thing that Fonseca's going to do? That leaves us very, very exposed against Napoli. The only hope I have, the only hope I have here, Shane, is that we will not have played a game yesterday, which means our players might be slightly better rested. Remember, Napoli don't have a Champions League campaign, so they have a full week to prepare, basically, for every game. But now they played the game yesterday, meaning that they will have to play again on Tuesday. So for them, that's a short turnaround. For us, it's our daily life kind of thing. So it's the only hope I have is that we have a bit of a gap. But losing those two players is a massive problem. There's no two ways around it. We don't have someone who you can say is a true, genuine number two to Theo. Yeah.
Calo Torre, who's
Ah,
lined up for the Futuro, and then got sent off.
beautiful.
Yeah,
Really
yeah.
great. Fantastic. That sounds perfect, mate.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, that's all we are. I think the other question I have, and I wanted your opinion on this, what's happened to RLC? In the first season, Shane, we were saying we were so shocked at the number of goals he's scoring, how he marauds forward. Do you remember this? I remember really clearly saying this to you, Shane. this guy is actually surprising us, how good he is. He's not a defensive midfielder, but he's actually getting forward. What happens to a player like that when he doesn't score, when he doesn't make those marauding runs, and he hasn't got a defensive bone in his body? He becomes the RLC that right now is getting slaughtered by every single Milan fan saying, "Don't play him." He is completely, what's the word? He doesn't fit the system that we're trying to play. But what do you think is the big change between this year and last year, except for Pioli?
No, 100%. So. It's the same thing that's kind of affected Leao a bit, right? So
Mm,
essentially, I think under Pioli, right, they were kind of given a bit more free rein to
yes.
express themselves a bit, right, on the pitch. And I think for RLC that works. And we seen, a guy that could go forward, get some goals. That was great. Um, Under Fonseca, I think it's a bit more, which to be honest, I've kind of wanted to see it for a while. And I think it's been one of the pleasant things that I've seen with Fonseca is every player is now responsible and every player, has their role and duty and they need to fulfill it, including Leao. Um, and RLC just doesn't seem to. I think it's the new system, but it's also because he's not able to play with a free rein, and he seems to be given a specific role that doesn't suit him. We're just kind of seeing the worst of him. So he's probably going to go in the summer. Let's be honest, but it's a shame. I think the first season that he gave us he was good. He was a positive signing. But then conversely, if you look at RLC declining, you can also look at Rangers. And Rangers has
Yeah.
gone the other way, right? Because,
Yeah.
the change suits him. So, I mean, I think in my book, I can see a far higher ceiling for Rangers than I can for RLC. So, I mean, I think it's probably net positive that, Rangers is going up because I see a lot of potential in him. Whereas RLC, I think we've probably seen the best of him. I think, ironically, his probably best days were under Sarri at Chelsea. That's what I'm told from multiple Chelsea fans. They said under Sarri he was great. So,
Mm.
yeah, I think it's kind of just one to sell. Probably, you can't blame Fonseca in this situation. Obviously, he came into the club. He's trying to implement these ideas, and some players just don't fit within them. Um,
Yeah.
you know, but that being said, that lack of freedom also has been a bit limiting to Leao. While his assists, I think, are actually quite good this season, apparently. His goal output isn't there. But then you have to look at the other side and you look at kind of Pulisic and, he's kind of coming into his own, right? Which in a
Oh
way
my
is
God. Pulisic's level, Shane, has gone through the roof.
right. So,
Through the roof.
I mean, to be honest, the more that I see of Fonseca, I think it was very easy and lazy out of it because I was one of those people that were kind of saying, fuck Fonseca, Fonseca out. But the more I see of him and I can see that there's clear ideas that he's trying to achieve, the more I think that he's beneficial for the club. I think he should be rewarded with some ready-made players that can fit his system.
Right. So, okay, no, that's a completely fair point. And I'll say to you, I'll counter that with Fonseca's demonstrated that he's definitely not Pioli. He will rest players when he feels the need to rest players, when he doesn't feel that they fit the mold of the system or the match, or if their attitudes don't seem to be quite on it. He looks like he leaves them off. I will obviously also say, however, why rely on RLC when you have players that you really should be testing, who will offer you far more than RLC? I'm personally disappointed because I kind of think of the human side of it. The guys come along to a foreign country. He's playing football the first season, first few months. We had several months, Shane, where we clearly said RLC is the best player. He's really shocked us. He's the best, for this month, he's the best player. And to go from that to invisibility, pretty much, and a discussion in newspapers to say that Milan are probably going to try and get rid of him in the summer. But the problem is his 4 million a year wage that he's currently on. Then, you kind of think the guy must be reading this and he's like, how can this be resolved? I would like to get the best out of RLC. Ideally, I'd like everybody to be contributing. He's just not. Now, to that comment, MCIG has posted something saying, I can help you fix RLC somewhat. He should be on the left side. Let him approach goals from inside the box. He's lost his speed due to his ankle injuries. Okay. I mean, I generally have no idea about how good RLC was at Chelsea because I've never been a Chelsea supporter. I've never watched Chelsea. Maybe the most I watched Chelsea was when they had Zola because he
Mm,
was a little magician. I'd watch any club that guy was in, including I think Parma.
mm.
I used to just watch Zola because of Zola. He was wonderful. But I can't say anything about that. If a Chelsea supporter tells me this, okay, fair enough. I just hope Fonseca sees that too. Fonseca would have me far more on board, Shane, if he had a bit more integration that was of youth players, not forced by injuries. If it was something that looked like it was planned, then I think I would be way more praise. It would be more praiseworthy from me.
I get you. I think Camarda was so. I think it's baby steps, right? I think Camarda was a good sign. I know. Look, it's it's 3-1 up against the team that's a man down, but it's still in the Champions League, right?
Yes,
Yeah, you know,
yes, Shane. Okay, Shane, I agree with that one, but I might the way I see it, and please tell me if you get me. I think he only brought on Camarda because Tammy Abraham is injured.
that's very fair. Yeah,
So I want to see players brought on through planning, not through forced. So that was always my biggest problem with Pioli, right? Roll out the same 11 until they broke down all the time. Just keep playing
yeah.
all the players until one broke down, and then something will be forced. Simic was forced on. Yeah. By the way, someone said to me that Simic made like a UEFA Team of the Week or whatever through his performance for Anderlecht, which is good on him. Good on the kid. I'm never going to be against players that have left us to get the opportunity to play. I'm always going to be supportive of them. I want their careers to explode. I want them to do well. So good on him. But yeah, Shane, it's just please do it through planning. Don't do it through force. As in, he's got a shoulder problem, can't play. I've got no one left on the bench. I'll bring on Camarda. Yeah.
I think for the optics as well, right? I think it would look a lot better.
Yes.
I agree totally, but I think it'd look a lot better for the optics. Imagine if you're a young kid that says, right, if I fulfill X, Y, Z, I know that there's a potential route into the first team if I do one, two, three.
Yes.
Whereas,
Yes.
at the
Spot on.
moment, it's kind of like, oh, I'll just get called up, and if the guy, if there's no other choice, then I get called upon and I get put on the pitch. It doesn't really yield to a lot of trust.
Yes.
So,
And
mm,
can I please just make this comment before anybody comes on and says, listen, in the Futura team, these players have played like garbage. I think there is something to be said about players being integrated with senior players so that they get better passes, so that they get, timely passes, so that they get to play alongside a higher level, as opposed to all of the kids together, hoping for all the kids to be at the same technical level. I mean, I saw a Serie C game yesterday. They're men. There's no joke.
yeah,
Physically speaking, Shane, if I take a 16-year-old and put him up against you and he's like 5 foot, I don't know, 5'8", physically against someone like you, they'll bounce off you. Yeah. So I just want to make this point before anybody says to me the Futura team is garbage, which they don't deserve to be playing. No, no, you can't paint everyone with the same brush. We maybe will get one, two, maybe three great players out of that squad. And if we get three, it'll be an incredible achievement. That's just the standard.
and I think
Yeah.
maybe Redbird are figuring out now. It's like, yeah, look, the ideal vision is, a team full of 16, 17-year-olds in Serie A that they can call upon. But to remain even somewhat competitive in Serie A, right, you need Serie A experienced players. So
Right.
just a mix, right? Because even though they're Serie A players, it's like, kids will always look to, someone that's older to fill them in. right? To
Yeah.
to help with their experience, and I think that's kind of what we're missing there. I think we kind of, and I was guilty of it. I thought it was like, oh, this is going to be great. Every kid is going to go and ball out, and
I mean,
but
Shane, I understand the vision
hmm,
and the vision that you had as well. Absolutely, I understand it, which is let's go down a few divisions. But your assumption is that in that division, everyone's so trash that we'll be able to demonstrate even with children. The point is, you can be technically very, very gifted, but if you're physically not ready, you're just not. You just as a whole team together, you're not. There's going to be no one backing you. You imagine Camarda alongside, I don't know, let's say Morata alongside
hmm,
Leao, the giant of a man, versus alongside another 16-year-old.
yeah,
You know, that's just my point there. I just wanted to make that point, and I think MCIG. Let me just get to your comment here, which is last year Ruben Loftus-Cheek could play decoy to Giroud. That type of player is gone because Morata or Tammy is no Giroud.
that's fair.
I say fair enough. I think that's fair enough.
And that can also
I'll
speak to the reason why he's maybe struggling so much this year, because with Giroud was kind of slow as well, right? And was a bit more involved in terms of build-up play.
yeah, yeah,
Whereas if you
yeah.
have Morata and Tammy, they're more mobile, there's more pace, so he's just struggling to, you know,
Maybe, but he's a it's his career on the line here. He has to somehow get to grips with it, and he has to improve. Ultimately, my ideal is Ruben Loftus-Cheek to actually be able to fit in the squad and make a contribution. I don't like to see, from a human level, I don't like to see players just drop out and just sink. I don't like to
no,
see that.
no, definitely not. Especially
Yeah, yeah,
not at the club. I mean, any player.
yeah. Not at my club. Not at my
No,
club,
no,
especially.
you want to see them do well, right? But
Sink at Man United if you like, but don't sink here.
easy to do, easy to do at Man
Yeah.
United these days.
Yeah. All
Anyway,
right, Shane, listen, we covered a lot of topics. I think it was a pretty good conversation. And thank you, everyone, for your comments. We've gone over an hour.
yep,
Is there anything that you want to say right at the end? For me, I'm done.
yeah,
I'm happy.
yeah. Just temper your expectations, guys, for the remainder of the season. It's not going to be a very positive one, I don't feel. Um, I would be happy considering the squad. I would be happy with Champions League qualification next year. So that's all
Wow.
I got.
All right. Well, um, let's try and say maybe the extra days of rest will get our players a little bit more up for it against Napoli. Also, I'm hoping the club gets this conspiracy theory into the players and gets them angry and furious. And maybe we'll have one of those Cavara stopping performances from Calabria. You never know. He's now training with the squad again, and he likes a bit of Cavara.
That's
So
it. That's it.
let's hope for that. Let's hope we win. Forza Milan, everyone.
Forza Milan. See you next week.
Ciao, ciao.
Welcome to the show, Milanista on fire. Nico Husky, Shane Lab, make the take you higher. They break it down, tactical, play so tight. Living for Milan, they're ready to fight. Red and black, bleeding through their veins. Milanistas 360 driving you insane. Beating on River, don't get it twisted. You mess with Arlo, you're gonna get listed. Maldini, you crossed that line. Welcome to the 360, with a Milan pride. If you love the Rossoneri, come along for the ride. We're here to talk truth, no lies, no games. And Redbird management, better learn our names. Better learn our names. Nathan got the heart, Husney's got the grit. Shane and Lab spitting fire, never gonna quit. Nico's on the mic, always keeping it real. Breaking down defenses like a killer on the field. From San Siro nights to glory in our past. They see Milan's forever, we stand fast. But Redbird, man, you ruined our vibe. Fired Maldini, you crossed that line. Welcome to the 360, with a Milan pride. If you love the Rossoneri, come along for the ride. We're here to talk truth, no lies, no games. And Redbird management, better learn our names. Better learn our names. You try to take the soul from this team, but we're Milan till we die, that's the theme. So to Redbird and all of your fake claims, Milanista 360 will burn down your flames. Milan forever, that's how it's gonna be. With Nico, Husney, Shane, Lab, and Nathan, you'll see. We hate Redbird, but for Milan we stand tall. Milanista 360 forever, Rossoneri, that's all. We'll let 'em learn our names. That's all. Milan forever, that's how it's gonna be. With Nico, Husney, Shane, Lab, and Nathan, you'll see. We hate Redbird, but for Milan we stand tall. Milanistas 360 forever, Rossoneri, that's all.